There are activities that we can do that will give us healthy, sustained increases in dopamine, both the peaks when they happen and to maintain or even increase our baseline levels of dopamine. So how do we do that? What are some of these activities? In recent years, there's been a trend toward more people doing so-called cold exposure, getting into cold showers, taking ice baths. First of all, upon getting into cold water, the changes in adrenaline and noradrenaline, epinephrine and norepinephrine, were immediate and fast, and these were huge increases. So that's the getting into the cold water that everybody experiences, these huge increases in adrenaline. But then what was interesting is they observed the increase in dopamine from cold water exposure of this kind was comparable to what one sees from cocaine, except in this case, it wasn't a rise and crash. It was actually a sustained rise in dopamine that took a very long time, up to 3 hours, to come back down to baseline, which is really remarkable.
So as he mentions, it is very remarkable. Now, when people would take cold plunges and things like this, very cold showers, you have that spike in norepinephrine. Norepinephrine helps with alertness and attention and things like that. So you're very alert, you're very aware, and you're shocked. So it has a sense of waking you up like very quickly, right? Very efficiently. And then when he talks about the dopamine spike, he says there's a rise, but that crash isn't there. So normal dopamine spikes have a rise and a crash, a very sudden rise and a very sudden crash. If you have a high spike in dopamine and you're really motivated and up and ready to go, and then it crashes and then you feel very, very dull and not well, basically. One of the reasons that this effect could actually be lasting for, as he mentions, 3 hours is because the state that it takes you into, the mental state and the nervous system state and your CNS state, your central nervous system, the state that you're pulled into is not one of an artificial spike in dopamine and then a sudden decrease in dopamine. Rather, there's maintenance in that. So the effects that it has on you physiologically are actually lasting effects. You are more aware. You actually are more alert. And so that's why it's similar to cocaine, for example, which is a drug, right? Cocaine has a certain effect on your body and it gives you a certain type of stimulation and that certain type of awareness and attentiveness. And that lasts for the duration of the high. And then once the high wears off, you crash. So in this sense, it's not as artificial. It's not as synthetic. It's something that is natural overall, and your body doesn't have to actually intake anything. So therefore, there's nothing to be broken down or released. It's just what's natural chemical reaction of your body reacting to entering the cold water or entering the ice bath or under the cold shower.